Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a card project featuring some brand new products from PinkFresh Studio. This is the Sippable Scenes product suite, and I'm going to show you a couple things, including blending on colored cardstock. But first, I want to give you a look at this fabulous product suite that's available today over on the PinkFresh Studio site. Now, this product suite includes a stamp set, and on its own, it doesn't look like much, but when you combine it with the stencils and the dies, you get these adorable patterned cans or bottles, and I think it's just a fun and unique idea. This is a look at the die set, which includes the can and the bottle die, which coordinate with the patterns on the stencil set. Now, the patterns on the stencil set can be used for either the can-shaped die or the bottle-shaped die. And within the stencil set, you actually have like two stencil sets. The first stencil set has 3 columns, which create 3 unique patterns for your cans or your bottles. And the second one is the stencil set, which fills in the floral images from the stamp set and also creates kind of this swoosh, which pairs nicely with this stamp from the stamp set, and that can be used either on a bottle or a can. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick for making the etchings on your stencil set a little more visible, because it's going to be important that you guys can actually see this for what I'm doing today. So I'm taking a permanent marker and I'm scribbling over all of the numbers, the registration marks, and the text that's on this stencil. Now, this is stencil number 1 of design 1, and it looks pretty hideous, right? But now I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol and spritz it on a microfiber cloth and just clean off all of the extra ink. This is going to leave some permanent ink within the etchings so that I can read it a little easier. So I want to hold this up to the camera and kind of show you what that looks like with that permanent ink kind of nestled down into those etch marks. Now you can really see the divisions on this stencil, and I'm going to compare it to stencil number 2 where I haven't done this at all. So you can see the writing and the registration marks a lot easier. Now, for those of you who like to spray alcohol directly on your stencil for cleaning, I tried that, and I actually did that with these stencils after I used them, and that ink stays pretty well into those etched areas. So now I'm taking the second stencil and I'm doing the exact same thing so that as I'm working through these stencils, you guys can really see what I'm doing and how I'm lining up my cardstock with the registration marks. This is something that you can easily do with any of your stencils that you have a hard time kind of picking up those etched areas. Just scribble over it with a permanent marker and then clean it up with some alcohol. Now, for this stencil set, it's really important that I start with the right size cardstock. I have a piece of cardstock here that measures 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And for this stencil set, I am going to concentrate on the bottom of my cardstock, and I'm going to be aligning it with the bottom registration marks for each segment of the stencil. So you can see the bottom of the cardstock is aligned with the bottom registration marks of this area of the stencil. There are 3 columns and 3 rows on this stencil, so we're creating 3 designs all at the same time. Now, I'm placing this on a grip mat and I'm aligning the bottom of my cardstock with the bottom registration marks in this segment. So you can see the corners line up with the corners. And that's exactly what I want to do every time I shift the stencil up. So for column A, I am using some Ocean Breeze cardstock. For column B, I'm using Ocean Breeze. And I did want to mention that I'm going to do some blending in column C. That's kind of an ombre style blending. And I didn't love this in the end. So I ended up blending a whole nother set of colors for the bottle that I'm creating today. So I've done A, B, and C1, and now I'm going to shift my cardstock up. Once again, aligning the bottom of the cardstock with the bottom registration marks for this next segment of my stencil. And then I'm going to do my blending. Again, here I'm using Passion Fruit on C2. And for A2 and B2, I am using a light hand with the Meadow ink. Now, I am blending on some chiffon cardstock here from Spellbinders, and this is a really light pink cardstock. And that is my recommendation for anytime you want to use a colored cardstock at your base. You just want to make sure you're using a really pale colored cardstock so that you don't get kind of this muddiness when you blend your colors over. Also, darker colors are going to work better on a colored cardstock, so I didn't use anything too light. And if I am using lighter colors on these stencils, I'm going to make sure that I do it with a heavier hand. Now I'm switching to stencil number 2, and you're going to see these same divisions on stencil number 2 for design 1 that you saw on stencil number 1, only we're done with column C for this, so there's no blending on column C. So I'm just blending on columns A and B for this. Each time I'm making sure that the bottom of my cardstock aligns with the bottom registration marks for the area that I'm stenciling, and I just shift this up. Now I'm going to continue and shift this up to my final segment, which only has a pattern in the B column, and it's for the sunrise over the lakes. Keep in mind, you could do a lot with this. You could add some glitter paste or some shimmer paste over some of these areas and really make an interesting scene, but I think they're beautiful on their own. And here's a look at all 3 of those designs that you get with design 1. Now, another thing worth pointing out on this die set is that the die line for both the bottle and the can is directly on the inside of the opening. That makes this a little easier to line up. You're just going to make sure that when you place your bottle or your can over your design that you have no white area showing through the opening. And I also wanted to show you that the bottle or the can work for any of these designs. So you could make a can with this swooshy design here. You could make a bottle with the sunrise design. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to take and align these dies with the various patterns and run them through my die cut machine to create 2 can patterns and 1 bottle pattern. And you can see I'm just using a little low tack tape to hold those dies in place as I run them through my die cut machine. Now you'll also notice that there's a tiny bit of bleed on the stencil designs, so you do have a little bit of grace when lining up your die cuts. After I die cut the bottles and the cans, I'm going to add a little bit of shading to this pink bottle here. I'm using some Ballet slipper ink and a large 1-inch blending brush so that I don't get too harsh of lines. And I'm just adding a little bit to the side and to the bottom of this bottle, just to give it a little something something. And speaking of something something, I thought it would be fun to add some metallic accents to the tops of these cans and bottles. So I'm taking the dies once again, and I'm aligning them to where just the top portion of the die is overlapping my cardstock and running those through my die cut machine. So once I have these partial die cuts, I'm going to look at the line that's kind of impressed along the bottom of the topper of this can. And I'm going to use that as my guide for trimming this down with a pair of scissors. I'm just going to trim right across that impressed line. And I did that twice for the 2 cans that I'm creating. And for the bottle cap, I'm also looking at that impressed line and just trimming along that with a pair of scissors. And once I have those trimmed down, I'm going to take some of the PinkFresh Studio liquid glue and just adhere those along the top of the die cuts that I have blended with the stencils. And I think this little touch is so adorable. Now, if you're blending these on white cardstock, you could also just mask off the top and blend a little gray ink along the top of the cans and the bottle as well. Now, I grabbed this swooshy pattern from the stamp set, which isn't necessarily designed to go with this, but I think it looks great over those swooshes. And check this out. PinkFresh Studio now has its very own stamp cleaner that's safe for your photopolymer stamps. And I love that the color of the stamp cleaner is pink. It is so on brand. And I have to tell you that the scent of this is better than other strong stamp cleaners that I have used in the past. So I really did notice a difference in the scent. It's a little bit softer. It's still a cleaning product, so you're going to have some odor to it, but this is much more pleasant than others that I've used in the past. Now I am taking the floral stamp from the stamp set and a couple of the sentiments, and I'm stamping them in black ink onto white cardstock and using the coordinating dies to die cut those out. I'll also grab the double stitched circle dies from PinkFresh Studio and die cut a couple of those from vellum. And I'm just going to create my designs and my focal areas directly on these vellum circles. So I have my 2 cans here that I've adhered on to my vellum circle. I'm going to grab this Your Kindness is Refreshing sentiment and place that overlapping along with one of the floral designs. And I left these in black and white. I like the contrast of the black and white stamping with these colorful cans. I just think it's a fun way to do things. And I finished that off with a few iridescent drops from PinkFresh Studio. I'll also assemble the bottle version on the other vellum circle that I die cut. I won't make you watch that whole thing, but I went in my stash and I grabbed this background that I had created with the Petal grid press plate and the Starry scallop background die, and I love this so much. I had used a portion of it, so I decided to use this leftover, trim it in half to place onto my white card base, and then I placed the vellum circles with foam adhesive directly over those, and I kind of did a mirrored pattern for these card designs, and that finishes off my card projects today, featuring some ink blending on colored cardstocks, along with the brand new Sippable Scenes product suite from PinkFresh Studio that's a part of their brand new Whispering Views release that's available today. And I love the way these designs turned out. I think this is such a fun and unique product. I don't have anything like it in my stash already. As always, you will find links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below. Over there, you're going to find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies, as well as some information on a blog hop that's happening today celebrating this brand new Whispering Views release from PinkFresh Studio. There are 10 $50 gift card codes up for grabs, so you want to be sure that you check that out over at my blog today. As always, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I am so glad you are here. Leave me a comment below. Let me know which of these 2 cards is your favorite. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to share it with your friends as well. Thanks again for watching. I hope you leave here inspired. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. To subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.